Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second week, our second session of our Accelerate Learning series. Lovely to have you join us today. Last week's session was a huge success. We had Marlene from our Digital Service Squad talking to us, running a super fun session on graphic design and branding and imagery. And this week, I'm happy to have with us another fantastic member of our Digital Service Squad, Laura Bainborough of Laura Joy Photography. Laura is extremely well known in Barrie as a photographer, as a product photographer, image photographer, just very highly thought of. So we're extremely happy to have her on our team. And you know, one of the subjects that comes up from quite regularly through the Small Business Centre is around product photography and around how do I create better images. I have a great looking website or a great looking social media, and my images are just not quite up to scratch. So that's where we're delighted to have Laura with us as part of the team, but also joining us today to share some of her knowledge and expertise. So Laura will be presenting for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll have an opportunity for Q&A afterwards. I would just ask that when it comes to Q&A, just pop your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A section there. We are recording this session, and we will be sharing the recording, the slides, and also some takeaways, some tools that Laura has to share at the end of the presentation as well. Accelerate Learning Series is part of the Accelerate Summit. So it's brought to you by a presentation team, a presentation committee that puts on the Accelerate Summit every October. Some of you, or many of you, I'm sure, will be familiar with the summit. The presenting partners are there for you on your screen there. So big thank you to our presenting partners for helping us bring together this session. And the Learning Series is something that we run throughout the year, just in the build up to our annual Accelerate Summit. So hopefully you guys are all ready to learn today and ready to take on board what Laura's about to share. And with that, I will hand over to Laura Bainborough.
Hi, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. I just wanted to quickly go through some logistics, like Dave had mentioned. If you could just put your questions in the chat and we'll do the Q&A at the end. I will have some deliverables for you, which I think will be also sent out to you after the presentation. And then just please keep yourself on mute, just so we don't have some distracting noise. And I just wanted to quickly give a shout out to the rest of the team. So Marlene, she did a great presentation last week on graphic design. We have Chris, who's doing a presentation on analytics 2 weeks from now. And Melissa, who is going to be next week, she's going to be doing some presentations on content and social media, so definitely check her out. And then Dustin's also going to be presenting 2 weeks from now, and he is our web developer, so shout out to those guys. So I thought I'd just do a very, very brief introduction. My name is Laura from Laura Joy Photography. I've been a professional photographer for over 9 years. I photograph a number of different genres, but one of my absolute biggest passions is working with small businesses, which is why I'm so happy to be part of Digital Main Street. So just a brief overview of what we're going to learn today. The first is how to gain clients with impactful imagery. So we're going to be talking about posting with intention. We're going to be doing some tips and tricks for taking some better photos. This is actually going to be for your phone mostly, not necessarily a DSLR, because I think most of us that aren't professional photographers are using our phones. And then we're also going to go over some tools to make your photos match your brand. So that's things like planning your Instagram grid, editing, presets, and posting. So first of all, I just want to start with a story. So I was photographing for a psychologist, and we were doing some branding photos. And she put on the sweater for one of her shots, and she said, "I'm so sorry, there's a little rip in my sweater. I just tried to patch it up, but do you mind just photoshopping it out?" And when I looked closer, I looked at the sweater and I said, "No, we have to take a picture. This is such a great metaphor." She didn't quite understand what I meant. So I said, well, look at this. You have taken time and energy and love, and you've patched up this hole. You've mended something. And that's essentially what you're doing with your clients. You're trying to mend a hole that they might have. And I just thought that was such a cool metaphor. And what I loved is that it was very authentic to her. It was something that she had done. She had not pre-prepared it. And it spoke a lot about her. So it was something that she definitely at first thought of as a flaw, but it wasn't that. It was in fact a great asset, and I thought a beautiful story and metaphor. So going forward, if you were scrolling through Instagram or Facebook and you saw these two photos, the one on the bottom, you might get it right away. You might go, okay, yeah, I get it. Psychologist, psychiatrist, they're advertising, they're trying to get clients. I understand that. But the photo on top, it might intrigue you a little bit more. You might not necessarily know what it's about. You might want to question it or like look into it further. So you would look, you click on that photo and perhaps see that story. And a couple weeks from now, you're probably more likely to remember that story because it's personal, it's a metaphor, and it's emotional. So our first topic is how to gain clients using impactful imagery. So of course, we are all business owners and we all want to make money. But the idea of using imagery for social media is not always to sell, it's to offer something new, it's to enhance your brand, it's to connect with potential clients on a deeper level. Of course, we want our images to grab attention so that our people are intrigued to learn more. But we've all heard this before, we want to farm and not hunt. So not always posting products, not always posting our promotions. So what's the fastest way to connect with people and grab their attention? It is to get emotional. That is why we love puppies and babies. They always draw our attention and they make us feel happy. We have such a visceral reaction to puppies and babies. And they're always the top rated, like if you look on algorithms, they're always the highest because they just immediately grab our attention and we just want to see more of them. So how do we bring out emotions? We set intentions for our photographs. So here are some examples of photo intentions. The first is to educate, to excite, to introduce, to connect, to pull back the curtain, to hit a pain point, or to inspire. So let's go a little bit deeper into each of these categories. The first one is to educate. Now, this is a really big deal as of late because obviously we're all dealing with COVID and things are changing on a moment's notice, and we need to educate our public, we need to educate our clients, how our business is changing, how it's dealing with COVID and all these kinds of things. So this is an example. Here's how we're dealing with COVID. This picture is of a woman who is a yoga instructor, so she had to move her classes online. So this is a great image that's colorful and it's happy and it's joyful, and immediately we are getting what is happening here. So another example of this would be, here is how our product works, or we've moved online. Anything like that that can educate your clients as to how you're going to be able to deliver to them or cater to them. Just remember that clients want to visualize how they are going to work with you. So in each of these subcategories, I'm trying to give you some shot ideas. And if you get inspired by one of these, certainly write down any ideas that come to you throughout the presentation because you might want to reference them later. And at the end of the presentation, I am going to be giving you a deliverable, which is a workflow sheet so that you can write down your ideas for any images that you want to take. So here's some shot ideas. You could have a shot of someone using your app. You could show how curbside delivery works. So you could show the actual spot where people have to come and park. You can do some before and afters. You could be holding a laptop open with your website. So these are educational ways to let your clients and your public know that this is how they can get in touch with you or work with you. The next thing is to excite. So this is the perfect time if you're taking an image that you want to use motion, you want to use color, you want to use joy. And these are the times that, or the kinds of photos that we use when we're trying to excite people. So that could be like, we're open, we're finally open, or we're doing a giveaway, or we have a 10% discount. Those kinds of things that you're trying to attract customers, and you want to let them know that you're offering something that is going to give people a surge of adrenaline is the perfect way to grab an eye. So using colors like red and punchy colors are a perfect way to bring people in. And of course, motion, anything that gives that sort of adrenaline feeling. So some shot ideas would be like a champagne pop if you're celebrating something. You could be holding a big bunch of balloons with lots of color. You could be jumping. I don't expect you to do what the girl at the top left is doing, but you could do something kind of fun, and you could be doing a big high kick or something. Or if you don't want to do it, you could get your kids to do it. You could be throwing confetti. A good way to do that would be, instead of throwing it up in the air, you're throwing it towards the camera, because you're kind of trying to involve the viewer. The other thing is, if you don't want to be doing so many acrobatic things, you could also be opening a colorful gift, and that's going to translate right away as to what it is, and draw the eye of the viewer. Okay, so the next one is to introduce. And I think this one, out of anything, this is something that you should take away from the presentation. People need to know who you are, especially if we are the face of our business. This means that we have to actually show our face. I know, I'm sorry. But if we try and be as authentic as possible, people are going to want to work with you. They're going to have a more personal connection with you and your business. So here's an example of an introductory shot that I had done earlier. So this is me lying down, and then around my head is all of the gear that I pack in my camera bag. So when I go to a wedding or a shoot, these are all of the things that I have in my bag. I have my gear, and then I have some personal items like a hair clip. I have my business cards, all these things, just to showcase, that I am an expert and I have good gear, and also that, there's a lot that goes into taking photographs. Another option is, if you are a business that has multiple members of your team, definitely do a meet the team. Highlight the people that you're working with, because if someone lands on your Instagram page and recognizes the people that are working there, they're gonna already feel more comfortable with those people. So here is an example of a team shot that we did. This was a dance studio, and I knew they were all around my age, so I knew they probably grew up with the Spice Girls. And I said, okay, which one of the Spice Girls would you have been if you were a Spice Girl? And they all got in the different kinds of positions that the Spice Girls would have been in. And I thought it was a really fun shot, and it immediately told you a lot about each of the members. And then remember that you can't just do it once. You have to constantly be reintroducing yourself, and try fun and exciting ways to do that. So here's another shot that I put it out. I don't know if you can see it, but on my letterboard, all it says is bang. And I used that to announce that I was ready to shoot. So after the COVID lockdown had ended, the first one, I used this shot to draw attention, and I said, I'm ready to shoot. I'm excited to work with you guys again. So just finding different creative ways and constantly reintroducing yourself is so important. If you were to look on an Instagram feed, there's usually about 12 squares. You should be on that feed at least once. I know that seems like a lot, but it's really important, because people are just going to look, and they're just going to scan and see, who is this? Who does this business belong to? Who are they? Like, what are they like? So the next one is to connect. So this is a good time to showcase that you're involved in the community, that you care about local businesses. This is a great time to use like giveaways, and Melissa, who is going to be presenting next week, is going to be doing a more in-depth view of how to run a successful giveaway. So definitely check that out. So a good example would be, we are a sponsor of blank. So if you are a sponsor, definitely showcase that. You should be sharing that you are trying to be involved in the community. So take a shot at the gala or event. You could be holding the banner if you couldn't make the event. You could be stretching for the charity run, anything like that that just showcases the story of you supporting a charity or another event. We have teamed up with, so this is for your giveaways. You could do a shot of both of the teams together. You could do a flat lay with both of your products, just to showcase this kind of unification of the two businesses. The other thing is doing a shout out. So if you take a photo of yourself using local products or services that align with your business values and demographics, this will be incredibly helpful for you. So for example, if you were to do a fake like case study, if you were a business that, say you were a nutritionist, so obviously a healthy lifestyle is part of your brand. This is a perfect time to team up with someone who does activewear. They're going to have similar demographics. And if you are taking a picture using these products of someone who has a similar demographic, there's a good chance that they are going to share that photo, or they're going to comment, and then they're going to bring in extra eyes in your demographic that might not have known about your business before. So it's just a really good marketing tool there. The next thing is to pull back the curtain. People absolutely love to see behind the scenes photos. This is the perfect way if you are a new business and you're not actually open yet. This is a good way to kind of start advertising and start getting eyes and ears for your business. So a shot idea could be you covered in paint because you're doing new renovations. You could be clapping drywall dust, which would be kind of an interesting shot and would draw the eye. I'm a huge fan of time lapses. And if you have a newer phone, most phones actually have this option, and you can just find it in your Photos app, or yeah, your Photos app. There's, you know, pano, and there's portrait mode, and there's also a time lapse button. And what you can do is you can set that up, and it's just going to continue to take photos, so it almost looks like a video. And what's cool is what I've used these for is, for example, if I'm doing something that has a heavy setup. So for example, maybe like a cake smash. Sometimes parents will hire me to do a one-year-old's birthday party kind of shot, and they'll have a theme for their cake smash. So I've done time lapses where I'm actually setting up this scene. And what's really good about these is not only does it just showcase, you know, behind the scenes and shows how something gets built, it also emphasizes how much extra value you're bringing. So people go, okay, not only is she taking the photo, but she also is taking all this time to set this up and to design this set. So utilizing the time lapse is really, really a great feature, and it takes no time at all to set up. And it can definitely showcase how much effort you're putting into something, which is kind of fun. Another thing is, of course, client stories. If you don't want to have your photo in there, sometimes you can ask a client, you can take some fun photos with the client and maybe their product or them enjoying the service that you're offering. Something like that, just to showcase that people are enjoying your service or product. And last, bloopers. People love bloopers. As you can see on YouTube, if you look at a show, there's always going to be the bloopers, and they're also going to be watched all the time because people just love seeing other people having fun. A shot that I took in the past is one time I was at a session, and I had squatted to take a shot kind of lower, and my pants ripped completely. And luckily I was wearing undergarments, which is great, but I took a picture of the back with the big rip and got lots of funny feedback about that, and people still talk about it because they remember it because it was a funny thing and it was showing me, you know, in my element. I wasn't trying to be perfect. Obviously, some businesses you need to be a little more serious than others, but it's always fun to showcase when things necessarily haven't gone exactly your way. So the next one is pain points. So this one you have to be a little bit, this one can be tricky, so you have to be a little mindful of this one. I find that using visual metaphors is a great way to tell a story while invoking emotion. So you don't want to post too many sad pictures, but you want to because you want your content to be something that people are looking forward to. You don't want to be the Eeyore, right? So these are, some pictures that would go with, are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling defeated? Does something feel like it's missing? You can use these pain points to draw in people. But like I said, you don't want your whole advertisement to be this kind of style, because I think people will eventually get sick of it. But this is a really good time to use stock imagery, or better yet, you can try and recreate the idea. So the last one is to inspire. And essentially this is you taking the pain points and answering the pain points, which is mostly what our businesses are doing anyway. So, I want to help you with blank. You could take a shot of you with a letterboard with some interesting words or some interesting phrases, and that will draw in the eye of the potential customer, and maybe they'll read further about what kind of services you can offer. The other thing is just sharing knowledge. So here's what I've learned while connecting with nature. And you can take a photo of you, in a beautiful setting, taking a big, nice walk in the morning or something like that. The other thing is, you're stronger than you think. You can show you in your element, or whatever it is, essentially that you're trying to inspire people with these images. You're trying to showcase that you are the expert in your field. So if you don't want to put yourself in the photos, some other things that inspire you. So for example, a sunset that you saw. If you're walking and you had a bit of an epiphany when you were walking, take a picture of that sunset and share it. Share the epiphany that you had. People are going to feel more connected that way. You could photograph your why, which is maybe you're doing this for your kids. Maybe you want to be there for your kids more, and that's why you've started this business, because you wanted more time with them. So if you want to, of course, that's your discretion, post a picture of your kids or your dog. All of these things are things that are going to connect people with you, and they're going to grab people on Instagram or Facebook. Just remember too, like a good hint is to keep a list of inspiring quotes or ideas on your phone. So even if you're not necessarily in the position where you can take a photo at that moment, just write it down and then you'll be able to reference it later. The other thing too is if you're, once again, say a nice morning walk and coffee with friends or something, take a picture of that surrounding and then post it later and maybe talk about why that made you feel good, or just make note of your surroundings in that way. So I just wanted to briefly go through some stock image pros and cons. I think stock images can be absolutely great, but there's some things that are great about it and some things that aren't so great about it. So let's go through the pros. They are available when you need them. So if you are looking to advertise something or you need to get an idea out quickly, it's there. They're there to use, and there's so many different forms of stock photography that you'll probably find something. It's going to be of higher quality typically, which is great. So it's going to look professional, and it also can be as specific or broad as you need them to be. So it's really great for that. There are some cons though. So the thing with stock images are that your competitors are probably oh, sorry, can we just watch, see if we're on mute here? Thank you. So the one thing is that competitors might have the same thing. They might have the same kind of ideas as you. So that's not really the point. You want to be able to stand out. The other thing is that it can be a little impersonal. So once again, if all of, everyone in the same industry has all of the same kinds of photos, it's not going to feel personal. It's just going to feel like just a random account or a big business kind of thing. It also can register as a fake account to people. So I know if I'm looking on Instagram and say I see something and I click on their profile, if it's all stock imagery, I assume that it is a bot or it's a fake account, because I can't connect it with anybody that I can see or know. And I just feel like they're just trying to scam me, which is something that you have to be really careful about. And while we're on the subject, I just wanted to do a kind of quick PSA. So be very, very careful when you're pulling images from Google. We're all guilty of it. We're doing something and we just Google image something and then just drag it onto our desktop. Be mindful of this, especially if you're using it for something that's advertisement or something that's going to be monetized. A quick story, there was a woman that I knew that was a health and lifestyle blogger. She was doing quite well with this and she was getting monetized. So, you know, ads were paying her to do this blog. And she used an image that she had just pulled from Google. And then a couple months later, she got a letter in the mail from the photographer and he was asking for, I think it was like $7,000 because she had gone against the copyright of that image. She had to pay that money because it was not her copyright. It was not her image to share. So you just have to be really mindful of where your images are coming from because there are issues and there are laws with images. So here are a couple places that you can get safe stock imagery. So all of the stock that I'm using in the presentation today, I got from Canva. Planoly, which is a grid planning app, which I'm going to talk about later, that you can also get stock imagery there. And then you can also get paid stock, which is like Shutterstock and that kind of thing. So we'll just go on to our second topic, which is the photography basics. So like I said, you can use these basics with your phone or your camera. I'm not going to go into shutter speed or aperture or anything like that because most of you, if you have a phone, it's going to do that for you automatically anyway. But these are more ways that you can get better composition in your photos. So the first thing is, the first technique is negative space. So this is a great technique if you want to convey simplicity, calmness, serenity, anything like that. What negative space is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. There's a bunch of space around the subject that is unfilled. This is also a great technique to use if you know that you're going to have to put text in something. Just off-center your composition so that you have lots of space to put that text. The next one is leading lines. This one's pretty self-explanatory as well. So you're using perspective and you're using lines in the image to highlight the subject. So what this will do is this is going to bring your eye in. It's going to catch people's eyes if they're scrolling, and it's going to give it some depth. This is another really easy one. It's called the rule of thirds. You can actually, on your phone, there is an area where you can put your grid on your phone. So I think it's just a slider that you can choose to have this grid or not, and it will pop up when you're taking a photo. And what the rule of thirds is essentially you're going to have a better composition if you're putting your subject on where any of those points are intersecting. So it's just an easy way to basically get a good composition. This is a little bit off because of the cropping of the way that the slide is, but yeah, it's definitely a very easy way to bring more interest to your photo. The other thing is framing. So this is a creative way to highlight the subject or scene. And this can make the photo feel more intimate or special. It almost feels like you're peeking in on something. So if you were to do, say, a behind the scenes, maybe you could have it so that you're framing the behind the scenes with your actual door frame. So it feels like you're getting this kind of, I guess, voyeuristic look into the business or whatever it is that you're taking the photo of. A big thing, of course, is to change your point of view. So this is a good time to get your squats in. I know that's the only reason I get my squats in, and the only yoga that I do is usually me trying to get a photo. So get low or get high, just change your perspective because you'll find that you can find some really interesting things when you change your perspective. So here are some very simple ways to just take some better phone pictures. The first thing is to always use natural light. So if you turn off your tungsten lights or you turn off your fluorescence, it's going to make your photo look a lot crisper and a lot cleaner. And the thing with tungstens is that they give a yellow-white balance. So sometimes that will make things look a little dirty or kind of dingy. Same with fluorescents, they're a green-white balance. So it adds kind of an unpleasant color toning to your photos. So you can just, if you turn those off, it'll be a much better photo. The other thing is you can get a tripod for your phone. They're really, you can find them pretty much anywhere, but if you just look it up on Amazon, it's super handy. I use mine all the time. You can take a better selfie. You could take some low light situations a little easier because your camera also has a shutter speed, so, or your phone camera. So it'll help in those kind of low light situations. And say you're trying to take your own product photos, instead of having to reframe the camera all the time, you can just leave it there and then just change out the product, and it's gonna be a more symmetrical photo shoot, basically. Lastly, if you have any newer photos, or sorry, newer phones, using portrait mode is a really great way to, basically what that does is it blurs the background. It kind of looks like you've got a big open aperture. So it looks like this nice shallow depth of field and just gives a nicer quality. Sometimes if I'm doing if I'm just trying to take a nice picture of food that I'm eating or something on my phone, portrait mode is a really cool way to make the photo look better. It almost looks like a macro lens. So those are just some tips that you can utilize if you're taking some photos on your phone. So the next one I'm going to be talking, or the next topic I'm going to be talking about, is how to get better product photos. Of course, hiring a professional will always get you the best quality, but I know a lot of us are new business owners, or a lot of us are, you know, because of the way the world is going lately, you might not have as much income coming in. So if there's a way that you need to get, or I'm going to show you a way that you can take these product photos very simply, very inexpensively, and just if you need to send them out to clients or whatever, this will work out great. So basic product setup. This is, I know it doesn't look like a lot, but this is the simplest way that you can take a really quite easy and clean product shot. So basically all you really need is some natural light. If this was an overcast day, but if it's not an overcast day, you want to diffuse that light. So you want to try and have either like some shears there, or you could even put up like wax paper or something to diffuse that light, because you don't want anything harsh coming in. If you want to, you can just get a couple of bits of foam core from the dollar store, and that will give you a nice flat white surface. You can put it on a table or anything that is a little bit higher, because you might want to get a little lower when you're shooting, just to showcase the product a little bit better. And then the last thing is another piece of foam core that's white, and that is to kind of fill in any heavy shadows. So as you can see, it's bouncing the light back onto that bubbly can. And then the closer that you bring that piece of foam core to the can, the more light is going to bounce back onto the subject or the product and fill in those shadows. So I actually took this photo with my phone camera and not my professional camera. So what I did was I just got a little bit lower and I took this picture and I brought it into Canva, and Canva has this very intuitive background remover. And it was especially easy because it was all white around the product. So it just cut it out for me, which is great. And then I just boosted the saturation a little bit in Canva as well. And another fun thing about Canva is that you can put in backgrounds and that kind of thing. So you can almost create your own little ad if you have the time and patience to do that. So the next thing I want to talk about in terms of product is flat lays. You probably have seen a ton of flat lays, even if you don't exactly know what they are. But essentially, what flat lays are the product or scene from a bird's eye view. So these images tend to perform very well on social media. And what's cool about these is they kind of bring a lifestyle element to your product. So it's almost like a snapshot of where you would see this product and how it would be used. So this was just a flat lay that I put together just for some earrings that I had. I thought they were kind of fun and beachy. So what I did was I got some tile from the Restore and I layered it. And I picked tiles that kind of gave me the idea of a beach, so like a sandy color and then sort of a bluey, oceany color. And then I found a bowl that I had that had some shell details on it. And what I did was, this was not studio lit, this was actually just in natural light. So I moved this over to the bright sunlight, and then I put a piece of palm leaf or whatever it was in front of the sun, and then I got this cool shadow. So it just kind of feels like, you get the idea, it's a beachy vibe, and that's what this product is about. It's sort of catering to that kind of scene. I'm just gonna take a sip of water here. So with flat lays, they don't always need to be used for product. So even if you're not selling an actual physical product, they're kind of a fun way to grab an eye on Instagram or whatever, because they can project a mood or a scene. They're also a really cool way to introduce yourself without having to show your face. So I had done this flat lay. I had done a post about how my business, I have to be constantly inspired. I have to find inspiration. So how do I find inspiration? I look through old magazines, or I find old photographers that inspire me. So this was a Richard Avedon photo that I always loved, and I studied it in school. So I took a picture of that, and I put my coffee mug, and I put my glasses, and of course the camera, just to re-emphasize what I'm doing. So if you're trying to conduct a flat lay, try and stick with the colors and the values of your brand. So what I mean by the values is, if you are a business, say that is, say your product is a cleaning solutions that don't harm the environment, then you, when you're creating your flat lays, are going to want to go in with the intention of the photos looking eco-friendly, organic, green. Maybe you'll want to go a very simple approach, so you don't have very much clutter at all, because your product is simple and doesn't have that many ingredients, therefore the visual is going to be simple. So just keeping that in mind when you're conducting that. You also want to create a scene that makes sense. You don't want to have a bunch of different products and weird things in there that don't necessarily work together. You want people to understand the vignette right away. Once again, going back to what I said earlier, remember your intention for the photo. Is it to educate? Is it to inspire? What is it that you're trying to do with the photo? This photo I had done, I just put create, because I was talking about how part of my business, I am trying to create things all the time. I actually ended up using this flat lay on my website, just to put some cool banner fillers in there. And I also used, this is my branding color at the bottom there. So that was just a piece of fabric from clothing that I owned that was in my branding color. So I just put that in there so that it would reflect my branding. And then once again, just always use natural light if you can. So I'm going to break down some of the flat lay elements that will help you build a more convincing flat lay. So you want to start with the background color. You could use foam core, you could use trays, tiles, anything like that that's like a large backdrop, just to kind of set the tone of the image. You want to put in maybe some tech, so you could use some tools that you use. I obviously use my laptop. This is like my little fun travel camera that I bring along. You could put your phone, any other kind of tech that you would use. Gives an idea, especially for businesses, of what you're doing kind of in the background. Texture, so like I said, I threw in this fabric. If you want to soften an image, especially because everything else in this image is very stark lines and kind of shiny and stiff looking, I wanted to bring in some softness, so that's why I put in that fabric. So blankets, towels, those kinds of things will soften the image great. And then you can also use hard textures to harden up the image if you have too many soft things. So if you're putting it on a blanket, maybe you want to bring in a book or something that has a harder edge, just so that you can kind of juxtapose those textures. Another big thing for me is putting in an organic material in your flat lay. What's great about having an organic material is it just kind of brings it to life a little bit. So obviously I threw in a bit of that palm leaf or whatever it is, but you could also use a cup of coffee. You could use food, so you could have croissant and a coffee. You want something that has a natural element to it. It just, for whatever reason, people just gravitate to that kind of stuff more. The other thing is you want to include personal touches. So for example, in this photo, I put in my glasses, but you could put in, a special coffee mug that you have, a set of earrings, a hat, anything that, shoes. I've done flat lays with, even for businesses where it was a partnership, and I put like the really cool stiletto heels of the girl and then the really cool shoes of the guy, and you could see this cool partnership and you got an understanding of their personality without actually seeing them. So definitely put those elements in your flat lays as well. And then lastly, you do want to try to have a bit of a focus point. So obviously in this image, I put the lettering, and our eyes are always going to go to lettering first. And that was the word create. But if you don't have any lettering in it, definitely try and pick something that is sort of the point of the shot. Obviously, if you have a product, you want to highlight the product. The thing about flat lays is they look ridiculous if you're not directly above them. Sometimes people will see me put together flat lays and I can tell that they're kind of going, really? Is this gonna look good? But when you get over top of it, it definitely has a whole other life of its own. So don't get discouraged if you're playing around and you see it from the side and you're like, this looks crazy. Get above it and play around. And also just take photos from different angles, play around with what you're using as the focus point. This photo that I took here is actually a small piece of a larger flat lay, which I actually ended up dividing into two. So over to the left side that was cropped out, I had my phone with some cool travel pictures, and I had a hat, and I had more of a travel element to the photo. So I kind of was able to make two flat lays out of it. Okay, so the third topic that I want to talk about is creating your Instagram grid. So these are presets, planning, and posting. So before I go into this, I just want to talk about Instagram. And I'm hoping that if most of you have signed on to this webinar, you have an interest in imagery and are therefore on Instagram. But if you are not on Instagram, I really, really urge you to get on there and use it often, because it is an incredible tool, and it definitely will help you build your business, and it can sell a lot of products for you too. So just some facts. So there are over 500 million daily active users. So there are actually over 1 billion people who have signed up for Instagram, but there are 500 million people that are using it on a daily basis. And this is actually a little out of date. This was 2016 to 2019. And from what I understand, it's actually higher now. So 81% of people using Instagram use it to research a product or service. And I know for me, when I think about the habits that I have with Instagram, I live very close to downtown, so I try and go and support the local coffee shops a lot. However, because we are in COVID and things are changing at a moment's notice, I will always check their Instagram to make sure that they're open and that they're selling their products or that their hours haven't changed. I use this more than Google, because I know that it's going to be instant and it's going to be more up to date. So if you are not utilizing this, it's really important that you do, because people are absolutely going to your page to get updates. So just keep that in mind for sure. 50% of people have clicked on a website to make a purchase from Instagram. So earlier we were talking about flat lays. What's cool is that now there's a shopping cart option with your pictures. So you can actually, someone can click on the photo of your flat lay and say you had a bunch of different products there. They can actually purchase any of the products on there directly from Instagram. So it will reroute them to, I think, either your website or Facebook, but it's the easiest possible way. They see it, they want it, they click it. It's such an easy way to get to basically sell something. So if you are on Instagram, there is a good chance that you've been advertised presets. So if you don't know what a preset is a photo editing setting that has been pre-saved. So they can be downloaded, you can create your own, and there's many different kinds of presets, and they can all work with different brands and different styles, which is very cool. I will give a word of warning with the presets. They are not a one size fits all for every image that you ever take. A lot of people spend a lot of money on presets thinking that they're going to magically make their photos look amazing. You have to start with a very good foundation in order for a preset to work the way that you want it to work. So for example, this was a bright and clean preset that was being advertised to me. The reason that this looks so good is because all of the photos underneath it were already taken, they were professionally taken, and they were already in settings that were bright and clean. These are already settings that are generally probably fairly white, flat light, so it works really well. If you were to take a photo in your tungsten light on your table and you try and put this filter on top of it or this preset, it's just not going to have the same effect. So just keep that in mind. Don't get frustrated. But even if so for my own business, I sometimes will work off of a preset, but I will never just use a preset because it will just never look good on the image. You have to use it and then put in the details and take the time and fix the photo. It sucks sometimes, but that's just what you have to do if you want it to look good. So if you are interested in buying a preset, here are some places that you can get them. Etsy, you can purchase them on Etsy. If you follow any like influencers or photographers that you like and you like the style of their grid or their Instagram, oftentimes people will be selling their own presets. So you can certainly purchase them from them, and sometimes they'll have a link in their bio as to where you can purchase those. There's also Lightroom. They also carry presets as well that you can purchase from. So that leads me to some photo editing apps. So these are all mobile apps that you can use on your phone. So if you do take a picture of that sunset and you want to make it look better, these are good apps that you can utilize. So Lightroom has a mobile app. They also have a desktop app. The desktop app is definitely more for professionals. It might be a little overwhelming if you don't really know what you're doing, but the mobile app is a little bit more user-friendly, and you have lots of fun ways that you can play around with your photos through Lightroom. And even if I'm like out traveling or something and I didn't want to bring my laptop, sometimes I'll take my pictures and I'll throw them into mobile Lightroom. So it's definitely a very cool app. Snapseed is kind of the same idea. You can I think this one's probably even more user-friendly than Lightroom. It might be better for people who are who are truly beginners in editing their photos. And what's cool is that you can also save your own presets. So if you like a look that you made, you can save it and utilize that on other photos. There's VSCO. VSCO is, I would say, is for more advanced users. It's got some really cool options. It's definitely if you're a person who loves taking photos and you love that kind of like vintage look, VSCO is really cool for that. I will say I find it a little bit overwhelming in terms of layout and usability, but it's definitely really cool to check it out if you're really interested in that. I do think that VSCO actually has an element of it that is paid as well, so just be mindful of that. So I just want to talk about post-planning apps. These are incredibly handy if you're trying to lay out like a marketing campaign, or you really want to make sure that your Instagram feed is looking nice when people land on it. So these are 3 different versions. There's Planoly, there's Later, and there's Plan. And I'll just kind of I'll show you a screenshot of the one that I use, which is Planoly. So what's cool about this is you can just upload your photos before they've actually been posted, and you can drag and drop them. So you can kind of figure out a color scheme, or if you know that you want to advertise things in a certain way or a certain timeline, then you can drag and drop them to that certain timeline. And then when you're putting the photo in your grid, you have all these options on the side. So you can schedule it, so you don't have to post it right away. You can schedule it to post it the next day or next week or next month, doesn't matter. You can basically have all these options. You can post it to Facebook or Twitter automatically, and you can tag people, you can add locations, you can basically do anything that you would do on Instagram, but pre-do it so that you don't have to worry about it in the moment. Another really cool aspect of these planning apps is that there's a way that you can save hashtags. So for example, if I'm posting a wedding photo, I'm not necessarily going to hashtag commercial photography or anything like that. So it will categorize your hashtags, and you can just copy and paste those depending on whatever it is that you're posting. And then there's a debate whether or not hashtags are still important, and I would say they're absolutely still important, because people will sometimes follow a hashtag. They'll just follow, you know, Jim's in Barrie or something like that, and then that will pop up, and that's a way that people can find you. It's really still important to utilize hashtags, absolutely. And then there's another cool aspect of it where you can just analyze how your posts are doing. So you can keep track of, when you are posting with intentions, which intentions are actually giving you the most output and input. So basically, how much engagement are you getting with certain posts that you're making? I will guarantee it will always be the shot of yourself that will do the best. I will put money on it. And then this really has nothing to do with anything, but I just thought it was a helpful tip. So if you look at my Instagram here, instead of having just my website in my bio, the problem with Instagram is it only lets you do one clickable link in your bio. And a lot of us have multiple things that we want people to be able to go to. So I have a website, I have a YouTube channel, and I have a blog. So if you utilize Linktree, that is a free service. There is a paid version where you can have more. But basically a Linktree will just put one link there, and then it will open up this site, and then you can click on what you're interested in from there. So it's definitely a very handy little app if you want to include more things in your website on your Instagram bio. So I just wanted to go through my closing thoughts. Remember that authenticity is key. My biggest regret was not showing my silliest side sooner. And I know that not all businesses have this luxury. I know that a lot of us need to come across more professional or more stoic, I guess is the right word, but I am in a very personal business, and what I had realized was the more personality I showed, the more return I got. So to put some context to these insane photos that are around, during COVID, the very first lockdown, me, along with every business I know, got completely shut down. I was feeling really low, and I wasn't really sure what to do with myself because a lot of my identity was photography. And what I thought would be funny is I wanted to keep my creative juices flowing. So I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I did like a fashion line that was COVID related? So it was kind of like a joke. So that's why I have this, I try to make it kind of look like a jeans ad, but I'm eating ice cream and my belly's hanging out. And at the bottom there, Tiger King was a big thing during the first lockdown. So I did a Tiger King kind of fashion shoot. And then I did the shoot with the turtleneck over top because we wanted to cover our mouths. I was overwhelmed with the responses that I got with this. And what's so interesting is when I first posted them, I was a little embarrassed, but I just had nothing better to do. And I didn't feel like I had to be super professional at that point because I wasn't really able to work at that point anyway. And the interesting thing about it was showing this sense of humor and showing this playfulness. I still have people now who book me because of these photos. I was not working, but I was planting the seed for people to hire me later because they thought it was funny. They were excited to work with me because I was showing that I was being creative, and I think that it just showed that I didn't take myself too seriously. And I'm not trying to say this to sound conceited, but it was such a good lesson for me because I had been holding back a lot of that in my life. And I just felt like as soon as I just relaxed and let it be fun, I got so much great responses, and I actually got a ton of referrals too. Like people will send these photos and be like, you have to work with this photographer. And it truly did wonders for my business. So my closing thoughts are, have fun and play with your imagery. Don't feel like you always have to be in a certain box. Get creative. So thank you very much. That was most of the presentation. What I wanted to invite people to do was we can do a bit of some networking via the chat. We won't do networking by turning our video on or anything, but we can just put in our social medias and that kind of stuff in the chat. But I want to just first ask, for Dave's sake, if we can put in any questions that we might have in the chat first so that he can see those, and then he's going to ask me those questions. And then after that, we can play around a network. And please definitely check out some of these businesses that have signed on and explore and connect, because that's what we're here for. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. That was super interesting, lots of fun. I'm sure I wasn't the only one sitting there while you were talking, going through the settings on my phone camera, just discovering little little features that I had no idea existed. So thank you very much for that. Just while folks are adding their questions in, there was one earlier from John. Just you were talking about tripods and remotes. Is there a particular brand you might recommend for those things?
So what I actually have is, I actually have a stand that I got for a ring light that I have, and there was actually an attachment, and the brand is called Newer. That's where you can get ring lights, you can get the stands, and you can get the attachments. I think it's NEEWER. And that's what I'm using right now. If you're interested, it's a ring light. And yeah, so that one actually has something that screws onto the top, and then I can put my phone on it. But honestly, you can find them anywhere. If you just put it in Amazon, you'll find something. They don't have to be incredibly high quality for your phone. It's not like it's having to hold lots of weight. So you can probably get away with pretty much anything.
Fantastic, thank you. Just one general question here. We've been asked, someone missed most of the presentation. Folks, we won't be doing a repeat of this presentation in the near future, but we are recording it and we will be sharing the slides. And once we can get the recording set up and ready to go, we'll be pushing out information as to where that's hosted to. Okay, let's see. Do we have any other questions here, folks? I'm just looking in the chat here to see. We don't appear to have any questions right now, Laura. So you must have done a fantastic job and covered everything that people were looking to hear. What Samsung phone? Here's one. What Samsung phone do you consider? I'm sorry, they're just they're coming in thick and fast now. So what Samsung phone would you consider as a good camera, if you could?
To be honest, I'm sorry, I'm an Apple user, so I don't know a ton about the Android, but I think anything that's come out in the past 5 years, it seems like most phone companies have been really trying to double down on good quality photos. But honestly, if you take it in natural light and you're not trying to backlight it and you're being mindful of your light, you can get good quality out of pretty much anything.
Okay, very good. Question here from Heather. On a grid, would you use images that get at all the intentions?
So trying to hit all of the intentions, is that what you mean? I think
I mean,
absolutely. I think that would give you a very dynamic. I think just you're offering something different all the time, right? You don't always want to be educating, because sometimes that's not what people want. Sometimes people want something inspirational. Sometimes people want, they want something a little bit more heartfelt or introductory. Same thing. You don't want the whole, if you're a business, you don't want the whole thing to be you. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of me on it, but I'm not, of course, going to be showing my work as well. So definitely, I think keeping some variation is great. Sometimes you won't have certain intentions, and that's okay. Use analytics to see what works for you, right? So see what posts do the best with your demographic and who's following.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct there. I think it's very much sort of kind of rinse and repeat. Put the images out there, see what works for you, tweak it over time, and learn what your audience is going to respond to over time.
I will say, and I think I said this before, I guarantee the introductions, if they're done well and they're done authentically, they will do wonders for your business. And I can't promise this for everyone, but anytime I post a photo of myself or some sort of video of myself or showing my personality, I will get minimum 2 requests for pricing in my direct messages. just because people now connect with me, they know who I am about, and they're excited to work with me. And I think that can be applied to pretty much any business.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a lot of, what we sometimes forget about social media is it's person to person,
Mhm.
right? It can be a little bit more organic than perhaps a formal marketing campaign. So I definitely see the point of what you're saying there. The question here is, why is it important to use the 9-picture grid to look connected on Instagram?
Well, in terms of just because if someone were to land on your page, that's what they're going to see.
Hmm.
So, you can kind of change up. I have a real hard time keeping a flow because I am photographing for other people's brands, not necessarily my own brand. So this drives me insane. But if you can try and keep those chunks like aesthetically kind of pleasing, then that will be, I don't know about you, but if I'm looking, because I'm a visual person, if I'm looking through and I see a company and I see that they've taken time to make their Instagram feed look really professional and really nice, I will give them a follow because I'm just impressed that they took the time to do that.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Did I understand that correctly?
I think so. Yes, Gary. If that's not quite answered your question, then feel free to pop another one in the chat there. And just while we're here, I guess this is a very good question and relates to social media in general, but I guess specifically for Instagram here. How often do you need to post in order to stay active, in order to stay relevant? What would be your cadence there?
I would say at least 3 times a week is probably, I know that seems like a lot. So that's what the planning apps are great for. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Instagram necessarily. So you can use these apps to make sure that your content is getting out there. However, like all social media, the more that you're interacting with the whole app, you're going to be boosted higher. They're clever that way because they want you to be using the app. So I think if you really if your demographic is something that is on Instagram, which right now is definitely most people, but I think you're really hitting women ages 20 to 40, or even actually it's very close now. It used to be overwhelmingly women, but now it's like I think 51 to 49% or something. So it's definitely it's definitely a really great tool if you're trying to connect with people, and it is definitely my main marketing tool, and I would say my greatest advertisement. But of course I'm in a visual industry, so that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then one last question here we have time for, folks, about linking the cart with PayPal. Does that work on Instagram? Can you link your Instagram to your PayPal account?
So from what I understand, this is probably a better question for Dustin and Chris, who are going to be in 2 weeks from now doing like ads and analytics and that kind of thing. From what I understand, I think that it reroutes you to your website or your Facebook. So if you have a commerce that's set up either on your Facebook or your Instagram, or sorry, your Facebook or your website, it should reroute you to that. So basically, it's just another funnel to get to the commerce site.
Understood. And actually, I'm going to squeeze in one more question. I know we're a little bit over time, but this is a really good question that's just come in, and I think would apply to a lot of people. Is it acceptable to post the same material on Instagram and Facebook, or is this a no-no?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're different. Like, so if I think about my own business, my Instagram demographic is, younger women, younger families, younger business owners. When I post on Facebook, I'm hitting like an older demographic. And sometimes the photos will work for both, and I'll hit both markets with that one. Absolutely. I think why not, right? If you can do a 2-in-1, do it.
Indeed, I agree. Fantastic. That's about all we have time for today, folks. We are a little bit over time, so thank you everybody for bearing with us. Thank you, Laura, for your additional time today, as well as a wonderful presentation. Really fantastic information. I hope everybody here got a lot out of it. I know I certainly did. We will be back same time, same place next week, folks. As Laura mentioned, we have Melissa, who is our Digital Service Squad team lead. She will be discussing social media, so please do sign up for that if you haven't already. It isn't one of the questions we've been asked about registration is, do you have to register for each individual session? Yes, you do. So we just ask that you just jump on our website there, or click on one of our social media links that we're pushing out and register. And we look forward to seeing you all next week, and we will be sharing the information from today's session as soon as possible. Other than that, thanks everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. See you next week. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Are we able to keep the chat up just for a little bit, just so that we can see it?
Sure.
Or is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah.